sports. It's in the game.
We are nearing the end of the 2021 season, and not to be unfair to Aiden Jackson, but life always just goes on in Formula 1. We are 2 weeks removed from probably one of the most fairy tale stories of all time, with Aiden Jackson and HAAS getting their first ever victories in Formula 1. We move on to the Sochi Autodrome here for round 15. It's not a popular track amongst fans since its introduction in 2016, but its backdrop is just as spellbinding, being one of the venues situated around the Olympic Winter Park used in 2014's Winter Olympics. Well, Valtteri Bottas, is this really his title to lose? You would think so. And looking at that, it is going to take a Herculean effort from defending world champion Lewis Hamilton to wrestle the title away from his own teammate. It's unbelievable that at the start of the season we were talking about a record-breaking title. His own teammate could stop him doing it. What an irony. Taking a look at the grid then for today's Russian Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas once again lock out the front row of Mercedes, as they are pretty much uncatchable at this point. Sergio Perez lines up alongside Daniel Ricciardo, with both Ferraris 5th and 6th, with Leclerc ahead of Sainz. Antonio Giovinazzi benefits from a plethora of good penalties once again and lands up 7th alongside Lando Norris in 8th position. 9th is Aiden Jackson and 10th is Esteban Ocon, completing your top 10 of course. George Russell is 11th, followed by Max Verstappen, with the third race in a row that I think he's taken a grid penalty for component changes. It's Latifi and Raikkonen, 13th and 14th, followed by both Aston Martins, down in 15th and 16th positions. Yuki Tsunoda lines up alongside Fernando Alonso on the penultimate row of the grid, and despite his Herculean efforts this season, Mick Schumacher just doesn't seem to benefit from plethoras of grid penalties being taken. He is once again on the back row, followed by Pierre Gasly at the very back of the grid in 20th position. So, pretty much, I think this weekend pretty much confirms that no one is catching Mercedes at this point. Max Verstappen going for his third grid penalty in a row, and fears a must that he might suffer at least one portion of grid penalties for the rest of the season, such as Red Bull's poor reliability at the early part of the season. And again, we are talking about the two teams towards the bottom, Alfa Romeo and HAAS, once again benefiting from all top players suffering grid penalties. Antonio Giovinazzi is in 7th, Aiden Jackson is in 9th. Unfortunately, the HAAS hasn't really had the pace this weekend, as Jackson was eliminated in Q1 but ahead of Mick Schumacher, and Mick Schumacher hasn't been able to really extract much of the pace either. This has not been one of HAAS's favourite tracks, as the power kind of advantage they had at Monza has been severely reduced due to the corners, and I think we have really figured out where HAAS's problems are. It's aerodynamically that HAAS have really struggled this year. Of course, they got the excellent restarts from Jackson at Monza, but the Ferrari B-Spec engine has made up for that deficiency on long straight tracks. But again, today they reach a more technical circuit that really isn't so power driven, and they struggle, and that has been the case with Jackson this weekend. Another kind of alarming sign for HAAS is George Russell up there in 11th place. Now, it's not so much of a big alarm bells yet, because Williams have failed to score all season, and George Russell is only sitting 11th. But as Aiden Jackson proved at Monza, and as the great Murray Walker always used to say, anything can happen in Formula 1, and it usually does. And that was proven to the masses at Monza, with a second fairy tale winner in as many races in as many years. But I think we are at the stage of the season now where the championship starts to take centre stage. Valtteri Bottas has an almost unassailable lead at this point. Many people thinking he could win it before the last 2 rounds of the season. Hamilton needs to start. If he's going to floors any sort of fight back, he needs to do it right here, right now. And he's in the perfect position, on pole position, as the 5 red lights come on ahead of the drivers with the green flag band. And it's a very short time interval, so it's lights out and away we go, go, go. And Lewis Hamilton has had a great start. He cuts across Bottas immediately to go running passing lane. Sergio Perez stays third alongside Daniel Ricciardo. Not only a lot of movers. Max Verstappen has had an absolutely stunning start. He's up to 9th already. I think he passed Aiden Jackson somewhere, and Jackson's actually dropped. No, he's up to 9th now. Max Verstappen's passed him up to 8th. So Max Verstappen did have a rocket start. It's a great start from Max Verstappen. If only he'd had this at the start of the season without reliability woes. Where could he have been? George Russell's already dropped down to 12th, being passed by Lando Norris. No real surprises there. Let's see if Jackson forms a trade in this early phase of the race here. Max Verstappen's already running away from him in the HAAS. I mean, I guess that's to be expected in a sense. Esteban Ocon sitting in P10. He was like P10 on the grid, wasn't he? So he's not moved. Pierre Gasly is still last down at the back. We would have thought he would have passed the HAAS at the start of the finish straight or before the first corner. And there's Aiden Jackson going round Max Verstappen. They're side by side. Aiden Jackson sticking with Verstappen again. He's giving Verstappen a bunch of headaches. And there's a front wing piece gone off. Esteban Ocon, that's through collision with Aiden Jackson. He'll be pitting at the end of this lap because the front wings on these cars have been very fragile all season long. Credit to Jackson, he's sticking with Aiden Jackson, Max Verstappen there, as the Alfa Romeo Kimi Raikkonen tries to make up for lost time. Hamilton leads from half a second from Valtteri Bottas. Sergio Perez is third, followed by Daniel Ricciardo, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc is up to 6th. Antonio Giovinazzi is still 7th. Jackson is 8th, followed by Lando Norris. So George Russell's gone to the point because Max Verstappen is pitted. Max Verstappen's pitting. What for? And it's a front wing change in Red Bull. And it's putting medium tyres on. Oh, so Max Verstappen had front wing damage. Well, credit to him because he had front wing damage and was keeping ahead of Jackson. He passed Jackson easily enough. What if he had contact with Jackson at the start? I very much doubt it. But yeah, that's 2 front wing casualties at the start of this race. We know Esteban Ocon hit Jackson in the big braking zone after the second DRS zone on the circuit. Of course, DRS will not be activated until the second racing lap. But unfortunately for Max Verstappen, he suffered damage as well. So that's him out of contention for points this race. And once again, Red Bull really just trip over themselves. And Max Verstappen in particular in the last couple of races. Well, Lewis Hamilton on the soft tyres. Absolutely vintage start. Cut across Bottas early to cut off a lane. And he leads at the end of the first lap. So here's Max Verstappen's start then. There's George Russell ahead. So what happens here? Max just sees a gap developing on the right hand side, goes for it and hits Norris in the McLaren. So it was a great start by Verstappen, but then he ran out of space and hit Norris unfortunately, and that's caused damage to his front wing. And again, because of the very soft front wings we've had this season, he has to pit for a replacement. But he did well, hanging it around turn 3 and going side by side with Jackson all the way through turn 3. Credit to Aiden Jackson there, trying to stick it in against Max Verstappen. That was very well played by Jackson. He saw that Max had the better speed coming out of it. So what happens here? Ocon really just outbrakes himself and turns right and hits Jackson, in my opinion. I don't think Jackson did anything wrong there. That was pretty much all Esteban Ocon's fault, unfortunately for him. And now he's down in last place. Very strange by Ocon. He had more than enough space on the left side to avoid Jackson completely and just decided to turn right. I don't know what he was thinking there. But there was no passing move on. Definitely not down that side from Jackson anyway. But he's broke his front wing and he's paid the price for a rather silly move, to be honest. Here's Antonio Giovinazzi. This is absolutely pivotal for Alfa Romeo now. They must take advantage of this. Because they're sitting in 7th and the HAAS hasn't ready the pace this weekend. At this point, Jackson would only lose 1 or 2 points. Well, HAAS would lose only 2 points to Alfa Romeo in the constructors' standings. But here comes Lando Norris down the inside. of turn 2, I think it's officially called, and cuts off Jackson's passing lane for a kind of counter-attack, and Jackson is left with nothing to do on that one, which is very rare, but Lawrence did all the right stuff against Jackson there. We've got a big scrap here, forming for 10th place. Sebastian Vettel has already taken it. Kimi Räikkönen is side by side now with George Russell. They've been like this for a corner or two already. Russell's on the mediums, and I think Räikkönen's on the softs, so credit to Russell. Bagging it with red side, but they're still side by side. This is going on for 4 corners now. Räikkönen is still, and they're still side by side. And this has gone on for what feels like forever. And there's Yuki Tsunoda behind them. They're still side by side. This is like 5 corners or 6 corners now. Can George finally get it here? No. Räikkönen tries to do it. They're still side by side. This is tremendous racing. George Russell, credit him. He's not giving up. But here comes Yuki Tsunoda. 3 wide. Absolutely stunning move from the rookie in the AlphaTauri. Räikkönen and Russell have only themselves to blame for being side by side for so long. Yuki Tsunoda with a sensational passing manoeuvre with DRS activated, I think, as it is lap 3. It certainly is. Great move by Tsunoda to take 11th place. That deserves more than just 11th place. Here's Max Verstappen. And they're back on the medium tyres. They will not make it to the end of the race. Tyre wear is not a huge issue here. 2016, I think, winner believe was Nico Rosberg, did a very opportunistic one-stop strategy, and it worked to perfection, and he won the race. So you can do a one-stop here. It is very possible. The 2016 tyres were very drastically different to the 2021 tyres, let's be honest, but it still can be possibly done round here. So Max might get to the end of the race on those, but he had to pit very early. It's on lap 1. Of course. So now Jackson's going to be trying to hold off Sebastian Vettel, the Merc power unit in the back of that Aston Martin. Some say Ferrari have really much drawn level with Mercedes and Red Bull in the engine power department, and Jackson's win at Monza did prove that. It's just as we said at the top of the show in the formation lap. The problems HAAS have is definitely in the aerodynamics and chassis department, and I think that's why they can't wait for the 2022 car, because it's going to really kind of redefine their opportunities from next season onwards. So they will be hoping this new car comes to fruition, but now with cost worries, we might not get those yet, but we'll have to wait and see. The FIA is still discussing with the teams a way to go forward. They want to get these new cars in place because we've already been delayed by 1 year due to the pandemic last season, which delayed these new rules and regulations and cars a year. So HAAS, do they want the new cars or not? I think either way, the new cars will be beneficial to them, but the question is, how beneficial would it be, and what will their driver lineup be next season? Because following Aiden Jackson's win at Monza, his stock has risen again. Sebastian Vettel going down the inside with soft tyres, and the Merc power unit, and Jackson just does what he does best and defends the position cleanly. And now Vettel is going to be round the outside of turn 3, is he? He's going to go down the inside. Jackson's run wide. Round the outside goes Sebastian Vettel. Oh my goodness. I think there was probably a slight bit of contact there. Jackson not giving it up. He recovered from running wide at the end of turn 3. Sebastian Vettel, meet Aiden Jackson. Everyone else has met him by now and have been very pleased with his driving because he doesn't normally ruin your race, although Esteban Ocon might have something to say about that. But in all honesty, I don't think that collision was Jackson's fault, to be fair. So, Sebastian Vettel going on to... We're already at lap 5 of this enthralling race. The clouds have gone apart overhead now, and Sebastian Vettel's lost his front wing off Aiden Jackson in the same corner that Ocon lost his front wing. Vettel's lost his completely. He'll definitely be coming in for a stop now. That's a shame. Sebastian Vettel was well, we did say earlier that Jackson did the best defending on the track this season, but let's see this. I'm sure it's going to be the same scenario here. Oh, there's not a move on there from Vettel. That's him out braking himself. That's not Jackson's fault either. That's so far out. He outbroke himself there. And back at the front then, Sebastian Vettel will be coming into the pits for a new front wing. In fact, he has done that already. Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are streaming away at the front, already leading by 3 seconds. This Mercedes car is just so hooked up this season. Almost no one has been able to stop it as a collective. And Hamilton and Bottas have raced away, and they are very close together. So are we going to get finally a semblance of a battle, of an actual battle between the Mercedes cars? And that'll be very interesting indeed. Well, the 3 casualties in this first 6 laps with the front wings for Max Verstappen, Esteban Ocon and Sebastian Vettel all having to pit. And that puts Kimi Raikkonen now up to 11th place. So Alfa Romeo could be on for a double points finish here. And to be fair, Raikkonen is right on the tail of Yuki Tsunoda. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. Alfa Romeo could be on for a double point finish, and that could be crucial for them now, following Jackson's win at Monza. Pierre Gasly's made his way up to 15th place in the AlphaTauri. He started at the back of the grid. But he's only legitimately cleared Latifi and Schumacher, because Verstappen, Ocon and Vettel all had to pit. Mick Schumacher has been pretty much put in the shade by Aiden Jackson this season. The gap between them has come down. Jackson's Monza victory, where it did have luck in it, to be fair. It did. Both Red Bulls dropping out. Lewis Hamilton having a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags, even though he was past the yellow flag zone. But to be fair, Jackson nailed the restarts after the safety car had come out. And he was P9. So there is that as well. Well, he was P8, actually. So Jackson did a great job from P8 to win the race. But the car probably didn't deserve to win the race. But Jackson just did a phenomenal job with it. And he's put Mick Schumacher in the shade. But to be fair, Schumacher is always a second season kind of driver, and when Schumacher does get a spur of momentum, he does tend to carry that on for quite some time. In Formula 3, in the European season, he was way off in the championship, took his first win I think at Spa, and just rolled away from there. One good result can turn Mick Schumacher's season around in an instant, and that happened in F2 last year as well. Had a bad start, going off the road in Austria, in the feature race, I believe. He was on for a podium, but then grabbed a double podium in Hungary and absolutely just turned around and won the championship. So Schumacher is one good result away from coming to life. Unfortunately, this season he's not really been able to get it because the car isn't really up to it, to be fair. But also, to be fair here, he's hanging with Latifi and Gasly and George Russell, who is falling down the field like a stone at the moment. Sadly, he started P11, now down in P14. So nobody really moving on up or down in the world, really. George Russell's the biggest faller. And now Gasly has passed Latifi as well. There's Sergio Perez, and the Perez train behind him consists of Daniel Ricciardo and both Ferraris. Lando Norris has passed Giovinazzi. That will really put a smile on the faces at HAAS, because that's another kind of point that Alfa Romeo might not earn today, although Kimi Raikkonen is on the verge of getting into the points ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. Speaking of which, he is catching Jackson, and so is the Tsunoda train behind him. So now Jackson could not be only falling out of the points, but giving Kimi Raikkonen a chance of points. And here's Fernando Alonso coming into the pits. Soft tyres, so he's making a tyre change. The TV is going long because he's on the mediums. And Schumacher's on the softs, so Haas wanted to try and gain a speed advantage, but unfortunately they didn't get it. And now Max Verstappen is sizing up a move. Meanwhile, we've got Kimi Raikkonen on the inside of Yuki Tsunoda into turn 3. And this is for a point for Kimi Raikkonen. And he's not going to get it, because Tsunoda is going to defend wide, and Jackson is struggling in that corner. He's on wide a couple of times there now. More action at turn 3. We've got Max Verstappen passing Latifi as well. Oh my god, Max is flying. He's already passed Schumacher and Latifi in the space of a couple of corners. Max Verstappen's on it. Well, we can do drives like this. Max Verstappen, Brazil 2016. One of the greatest drives I've ever seen from a young driver. Max was only 19 or 20 at the time. In fact, he was I think he was 18 or 19, and he displayed one of the great driving skills in the wet we'd ever seen since 1996 and Michael Schumacher in that rain-sodden Spanish Grand Prix. It was a really coming-of-age drive for Max Verstappen. And he's only had more since, but this season he's been really kind of scuppered by Red Bull's lack of reliability, to be fair. More in his own driving. Although he did kind of drop it at Monza, to be fair. And the start, well, he was more unlucky, really. He was going for a gap that was there, and all of a sudden, Lando Norris closes in, and it's a collision, and Max has to pit for a front wing. The CB's passed Schumacher, although I think he was ahead of Schumacher already, wasn't he? I think he was. Oh! And that is the runaway engine of Esteban Ocon going boom. And more misery for Alpine. They've had a really tough second half of the season, Alpine. They've been towards the back as the season has progressed. They have definitely fallen behind in the development race, and now they could be possibly losing Fernando Alonso for next season. The good news in all that is they could acquire the services of this man, Aiden Jackson, who is valiantly defending one more points-paying position as Yuki Tsunoda has passed him. So HAAS really don't look up to it at this track, unfortunately. I think that promotes Max Verstappen up to 15th now, so Max is getting on with it. He's already dropped Latifi. And here is Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. As if Jackson didn't have enough of Aston Martins earlier with Sebastian Vettel. Even though that replaced the front wing was more or less his fault. Crucial moment this could be for Alfa Romeo. They fell behind HAAS with Jackson's win at Monza. It could be the telling point of the season. Alfa Romeo have had a really disappointing one, to be fair. Of course, Kimi Raikkonen could be announcing his retirement, and Alfa Romeo could also be dropping Antonio Giovinazzi. Rumour has it that Guan Yu Zhou will be in that car. As Max comes into the pits. It's a front wing change for Max Verstappen. What is going on? Why is he changing his front wing? We haven't had a replay of a crash he's had. I'll check it on my other monitor here, folks. But Max Verstappen is putting for a front wing change as Kimi Raikkonen tries to have a look down the inside of Aiden Jackson. And the kid's being valiant defense, but unfortunately it's not really amounting to much. Yes, Max Verstappen is. I'm watching Max Verstappen's previous laps on the previous lap on my monitor here. I'm not seeing anywhere that Max crashed to force a front wing change. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. Maybe Red Bull sent something on the sensors. Aiden Jackson had to replace his front wing. Oh, and there's another one. There's Kimi Raikkonen. Off the track. Lance Stroll has been involved as well, and Lance Stroll is actually pulling off. Virtual safety car deployed. That's the first time we've seen that this season. So the VSC is out. Aiden Jackson comes in immediately. I wonder if he had damage. Did Raikkonen hit him? And well, that's gonna be a very much sour grapes at Alfa Romeo now, because. Did Jackson do that deliberately? I very much doubt it. I hope we get a replay. Tsunoda's also coming in for his stop. Valtteri Bottas has assumed the lead because Hamilton's pitted. He's probably under the virtual safety car. There's Mick Schumacher going into 10th place. Of course, he has to pit. And, well, virtual safety car is ending. And we're going to go back to green flag racing. The DRS will be automatically activated. You won't have to wait 2 racing laps afterwards to use it. I'd like to see a replay of that incident between... Here we go. So this is going to be... again, it's going to be the same place earlier. And again, Raikkonen just misjudges his braking. He hits Jackson. And Jackson might be losing race's front wings behind him, but to be honest, really they're out-braking themselves. And what happened to Stroll here? Why has he pulled off? So he just hits the bollard, and I think one of his tyres just went. I think it was a rear tyre. I think Stroll suffered a puncture from going over the bollard. Here's Bottas coming out of the pits then. 4 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. So Hamilton had a storming outlap and has gained 6 seconds on Valtteri Bottas. It's very well played by Lewis Hamilton. Nicholas Latifi is in 9th place, folks. And that could be crucial for Williams, but don't forget Antonio Giovinazzi. Nicholas Latifi is going long. Giovinazzi is coming out of the pits in 8th. That pretty much confirms Alfa Romeo's points if Giovinazzi can get to the end. But it could have been more. I personally think Raikkonen, like Vettel before him, outbroke himself and wasn't aware that it was just went veering into Jackson. Jackson has caused some front wing damage through no fault of his own, quite honestly. And well, it all seems status quo at the front. Lewis Hamilton's had a storming outlap and has now got 5-second lead over Bottas at the front. Absolutely in command today, Lewis Hamilton. We've not seen a lot of this season. Lewis Hamilton in command. And still not at the magic 100, Lewis Hamilton. It's taking him a bit of a while to get there, isn't it? This would be win number 98. He'd be 2 away with 4 rounds to go. That's USA, Mexico, Sao Paulo and Abu Dhabi left to run. Lewis Hamilton would be 2 wins away from the magic 100. He's already taken the record from Schumacher, of course. Michael Schumacher. 91, there's Charles Leclerc there with DRS on Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo is in 3rd. That's gone relatively unnoticed. He's in 3rd now. And I think Ricciardo and Leclerc have jumped Perez. Because I'm sure Perez was 3rd. So Ricciardo and Leclerc have both jumped him. And once again, we see McLaren and Ferrari relatively close together. And again, they seem to be the unnoticed drivers running in the points. Nicholas Latifi here is having a great effort. He's going to have to pit, no doubt. He is on for a storming effort here to 9th place. But he's going to have to pit, going longer on the medium tyres. Well, Six will say Jackson maybe instigated that front wing damage from Raikkonen, but I very much doubt it. I very much doubt it. I don't think Jackson's at fault for any of the incidents he's been involved in today. Simply, they've outbroke themselves going for moves that don't exist because they're so far out. I think the speed of their cars compared to the HAAS has caught them out, but the HAAS has been definitely improved speed-wise, if nothing else. And if we're going to hear anything about any changes to the incoming rules for 2022, it'll most likely be in the off-season, right from when Abu Dhabi finishes. As Charles Leclerc has passed Ricciardo, and there they are, side by side through turn 3. And Ricciardo is going to take the position back through turn 4. And Charles Leclerc, he's definitely gone unnoticed a lot more this season. But Ferrari have definitely come on leaps and bounds from last year. And there's Latifi. And was that Tsunoda passing him? It was. So Latifi's starting to fade on those tyres. And here comes Sebastian Vettel. We had a front wing change earlier, so he's done very well to get back up into 11th place. He's going to be on for the points here. And maybe the virtual safety car helped him out somewhat. Max Verstappen ahead of Kimi Raikkonen then. Chasing Fernando Alonso and catching him, Max Verstappen. Gasly's up into 13th as well, so the big movers have been the guys at the back, or had to make front wing changes. Max Verstappen had to make 2. The second one, I'm still not really sure how that happened. And Sebastian Vettel makes easy work of the Williams. And who will the teammate be? Will it be George Russell, or will be Alex Albon? A lot of talk around Alex Albon taking a Williams seat if George Russell is promoted. But there'll be no talk on that until the end of the season now. Mercedes have stuck for now, as have Red Bull and as have Ferrari. McLaren have also stuck. Although it's a strange one, because Jackson does have ties to McLaren with the Mercedes power, but there's been no discussion at McLaren about Aiden Jackson, which is weird. It's normally been the talk about Aston Martin if we're talking about Mercedes powered teams. But I see no reason for McLaren to change their driver lineup. Norris and Ricciardo have done brilliantly this year. Ricciardo has been a little slower, to be fair to him, but today he's coming on really strong. He's in P3 ahead of Leclerc, Perez and Sainz, so we're going to have a battle for 4th here. And we're going to have a 3 wide moment going into this corner. We've had front wings lost here. And Perez is down the outside of Sainz. And Sainz is going to hold the position. Perez has really lost out in the second stint of the race so far. So yes, Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull and McLaren all sticking. Valtteri Bottas sets the fastest lap. Charles Leclerc comes into the pits. I wonder if that's for a front wing change, because it seems pretty early, unless Leclerc stayed on the medium tyres. If he did, that's a great effort. And yep, front wing change for Charles Leclerc. So there was contact back there somewhere. What flimsy front wings we've had this year. Hopefully we get the new cars and the front wings are a lot stronger, because this year they've been pretty flimsy, to be fair. Vettel comes in again. We had a front wing change earlier. It's going from Jackson up to 11th. Chased by Pierre Gasly. Nicholas Latifi is pulling a great effort here, to be fair. He's still in P9. He's still not made his pit stop. He's going to lose out, sadly. But to be fair to him, he's done a good job. And there's Vettel. I wonder if he had to change his front wing. I wouldn't be surprised. So Charles Leclerc's rather promising race has been curtailed, and I think that leaves Daniel Ricciardo free reign to 3rd place now. Unless Sainz and Perez can do anything about it. And here's some interesting news. Valtteri Bottas is catching Lewis Hamilton. He's taken 2 seconds out of Lewis Hamilton so far on this stint. He's now only 3 seconds behind. So he's moved for Charles Leclerc into 9th place. Now, will Jackson catch him? He probably will. Jackson could still be on for a point here, and that would be helpful, considering Antonio Giovinazzi is in P7 and holding his own, to be fair. HAAS will be hoping that Tsunoda and Leclerc get past him pretty darn quick, because HAAS do not have the pace today. Jackson, once again, his skill and talents are making up for the deficiencies of the HAAS. And that is 3 cars directly behind Aiden Jackson. One of them being Max Verstappen, up into 15th place. Doing rather well, to be fair. There's Alonso going down the inside of Yuki Tsunoda. There's Max Verstappen trying to do the inside, doing a Mick Schumacher-esque move from last year in the feature race. But he pulled on Yuki Tsunoda to win that race. So Schumacher knows his way around here as well. He's been passed by Vettel. I wonder if that was choreographed. Probably was. Not because they're, well, not really because they're friends, but really because Mick Schumacher probably has no answer for the majority of drivers this season in terms of defending position. It's definitely not as defending as hard as Jackson is, to be fair. Fernando Alonso on with DRS on Tsunoda. Even though he's not going to try and pass Tsunoda around here, he's not going to have the time to do it, no. And there's been another second or so taking out of the lead of Lewis Hamilton for Valtteri Bottas. We could have a battle between the two Mercedes towards the end of this race. Bottas is absolutely flying in this stint at the moment. Bottas' form has been impeccable this year. Such a surprise. Well, let's continue with the driver lineups for a moment. We all know that McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes and Red Bull are all sticking. Aston Martin have definitely got Jackson on their ranks. AlphaTauri most likely could stick. I would like AlphaTauri to give Alex Albon another shot. But I think Tsunoda, to be fair to him, has earned his place this season, so I think AlphaTauri will stick. Aston Martin could be quite. Aston Martin seems like the most likely destination for Jackson should he be promoted after his loan to HAAS is over. But where does that call Sebastian Vettel? Because Lance Stroll will really not be going anywhere, I don't think. Alpine is another option for Jackson to most likely pursue with Alonso's impending retirement, maybe. Alfa Romeo look to be leaning towards Guan Yu Zhou, but it could give Jackson another opportunity for Mercedes. But I think Mercedes will have a big say in Aiden Jackson's future, especially after winning at Monza. I think Mercedes will want him on their books as long as they can have him. They won't want him going to Ferrari, or even Red Bull for that matter. So I think if Mercedes do have a say in Jackson's future, Aston Martin will be his most likely destination if Vettel decides to step down. Strange that why he would, but it's not really big. The move to Aston Martin really hasn't been the spring in his step we'd all expected it to be. We didn't expect it to win races, to be fair. Unless Lance could move on. He could go to Alfa Romeo. With the cash injection they'll get from it, from Lance Stroll, and the extra money for Guan Yu Zhou might help as well, if that's the way Alfa Romeo are going. And it's pretty much in a HAAS direction, really. Although, to be fair, Aiden Jackson had almost no funds in his way. And Mick Schumacher, well, his surname probably did speak for itself, although, like I said, Schumacher's surname has earned him nothing. He's earned it himself. And I think for Jackson and Schumacher, this has definitely been a good season for them in terms of their scenarios, being both rookies. But Jackson has definitely put his teammate in the shade. And Williams could also be an option for Jackson. Very highly doubtful they get rid of Latifi. That could be depending on what George Russell does. And to be fair, like we said, Mercedes now waiting till the end of the season to discuss that possibility. So, the most likely destinations for Aiden Jackson at the moment, Aston Martin and Alpine. And I don't think Mercedes will want him going anywhere other than a Mercedes-powered car. So, Aston Martin definitely looks like the most viable destination, if nothing else. We just have to watch this space, really. And here comes Yuki Tsunoda. Jackson tries to force it. He tries to go for the switchback, but he's got nothing to defend Tsunoda with this weekend. They're doing the right thing with Jackson. They're cutting off a lane of switchback moves, which Jackson is very good at. Alonso going around the outside of Jackson, and Jackson shuts the door. And you'd expect nothing less. But that now puts Aiden Jackson out of the points. And now it's Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen going side by side. Herculean battle this could have, rivalry that could have stemmed for to the most aggressive drivers in the sport. And Alonso could be stepping away again. I think if Alonso was to do that, I think lucrative offers have come from elsewhere. Don't forget, Fernando Alonso was an IndyCar driver in the Indy 500 with McLaren that year. He almost won the race too. A few laps to go, and Valtteri Bottas has brought the lead down to 2 seconds now. Let's just trying to have a look around the outside of Jackson. If Max works his way up into the points, he's done a very good race here, Max Verstappen. He's done a great job. What could he have done without the 2 pit stops for front wing changes? Down the inside, and it's no contest this time around. And, well, that probably would have been the case at Monza, but Max Verstappen dropped it on the start-finish straight and took himself out of the race win possibility. It would have been only his second win of the season. He won in Austria, and that's all he's won this year. It's now Fernando Alonso closes in on Jackson. He'll probably do the same move Verstappen did. You can definitely tell that the HAAS struggles in the corners and aerodynamically. This car is nothing more but a placeholder, or to be a more torrid term, a mobile chicane in the wrong circumstances. This car does not like technical circuits, that's for sure, and Russia certainly is one despite this long straight. As you can see, Jackson's Ferrari engine, the B-spec power unit in that Ferrari, is more than good enough to handle it. And that's why Jackson did so well at Monza. That into his fantastic restarts off the safety car. And now the gap is down to 1 second between the drivers. Bottas is coming for his teammate. Is Hamilton cruising, or has he got a problem? Because Bottas is catching him. Not at a rate of knots, mind you. Now Alonso has DRS down the inside of Aiden Jackson into turn 3. Or turn 2. And takes a bit of curb. Cuts Jackson off. There's nothing he can do, but Jackson trying to vent into turn 3. Side by side through turn 3. It's Jackson and Alonso. And Alonso's going to get ahead. And, well, that could have been another rivalry that really brewed, because Jackson is definitely one of the more aggressive drivers in the sport. The risks he took at Monza were very calculated, though, mind you. Jackson seems to be a very calculated risk taker. He seems to know when to go for a move, and he had to go for the move on Bottas and Monza in the chicane at that point, because if he hadn't done, he would have lost his chance to win the race. He caught Bottas unawares, but there was no contact involved. Sebastian Vettel will be a lot more cautious of Aiden Jackson going into this race, and then battle has resumed for third here, because Daniel Ricciardo and Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, well, Carlos Sainz really, because Leclerc had to pit earlier. Now Sainz is going for a podium. And here's Perez as well. Well, Perez has really fallen off in this race. Is Leclerc going to have enough time to catch Giovinazzi? He should do. Running on lap 24. Just a few more laps to go. And now the gap is 1.3 seconds between Hamilton and Bottas. It could be a last lap shootout between the two Mercedes. This is a race that Hamilton needs to win, because defending his title could be ebbing away from him. Bottas holds a 60-plus point lead, so wouldn't be enough to win it. That would be enough to win it at Abu Dhabi, Brazil. But that would be more than enough to win it at Brazil. So Bottas, if he keeps on this trajectory, This will dent his chances a little bit, but if he keeps on that trajectory, he could win it by Mexico. Because it would be 25 points, 50 points, and then obviously 65 points. Bottas holds a 60-plus point lead. So all he really needs to do for these next couple of races is to just stay with Hamilton close enough to make the gap 65 points. Here comes Max Verstappen then up onto the back of Pierre Gasly. It's less than a second between the two Mercedes. And is Max Verstappen, after two front wing changes, going to score a point here for Red Bull by passing Pierre Gasly? Look at this. Valtteri Bottas has been much quicker than Lewis Hamilton in this race. 2 laps to go when they cross the line. And we've also got a battle for third going on. Daniel Ricciardo holding on valiantly as Charles Leclerc comes onto the back of Antonio Giovinazzi, so he will have enough time to pass him. Yuki Tsunoda might not. And Leclerc has already got past him. There you go. Charles Leclerc is up to P7. Good recovery drive from him after replacing his front wing. So now Antonio Giovinazzi will be on for 4 points for 8th place now, I think. So only will be a 4-point cut into the lead the HAAS have over them, which is over 10 points, I believe, thanks to Jackson's win at Monza. And back to the battle for third. Carlos Sainz is holding it round turn 3. And Daniel Ricciardo is entering into turn 4. McLaren have already won and scored podiums with Lando Norris this season. This will be the first time Daniel Ricciardo has stepped on the podium for them. There's DRS activated for Valtteri Bottas. And will he be close enough? Has Hamilton got it off the back marker? No. And Bottas isn't close enough. Thinking about the championship, Valtteri Bottas, no doubt he will not take an unnecessary risk to beat Lewis Hamilton. And there is Max Verstappen passing Pierre Gasly. What a great comeback from Max Verstappen. Where could he have been in this race? Well, looking at the replay, and Gasly got him back, mind you. And I was going to say, looking at the replay, hang on a minute, here's Bottas with DRS in the first zone. No, he chooses not to pass him. I wonder if Mercedes have been told the drivers to hold station, although that doesn't look like Bottas wants to hold station. Bottas does have a championship lead. I think Mercedes will concentrate on getting these cars to the finish. They are very much ahead in the Constructors' Championship. They could win it in a couple of rounds' time, actually. Because the gaps don't look that big in the points, but the gap on the track is absolutely like humongous. Bottas holds a 13-plus second lead over Daniel Ricciardo. Hamilton does, sorry. And Max Verstappen has still not passed Pierre Gasly for a point. It could be rather unfortunate, but it is a great comeback drive from Max Verstappen now. DRS for Bottas, I think. Yes. No. There's no DRS for Bottas there. Mercedes, I guess they're holding station then, by the looks of it. So Lewis Hamilton is going to come round for only his 3rd win of the season, following on from Portimao and Silverstone. Lewis Hamilton takes win number 98 round the final corner to win the Russian Grand Prix, followed home by Valtteri Bottas after a fantastic effort. Daniel Ricciardo is back into P3. We've got a scrap here. Sainz there and Perez. And Perez really, by all accounts, should be sweeping past these two, but Mercedes is in the back of the McLaren and the Ferrari B-Spec unit is in the back of the Ferrari, which has been mighty this season. Daniel Ricciardo finishes 3rd for McLaren, his first podium for McLaren. Charles Leclerc will finish 4 seconds clear of Antonio Giovinazzi, and that could be crucial at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship. Max Verstappen has passed Pierre Gasly then for the final points position. Great comeback drive from Max Verstappen. That car certainly has the pace, but not the reliability. Max Verstappen should have been one of the main players in the championship this season. As it stands, I think he's behind both Ferraris and Sergio Perez in the championship standings now. A mysterious second pit stop for a front wing change. I still can't really figure out where that happened. Well, Aiden Jackson, a lonely P14. His car hasn't had the pace today, that's for sure. And once again, he's a comfortable 10 seconds clear of Mick Schumacher, who, to be fair to him, has done tremendously well to beat Nicholas Latifi, Kimi Raikkonen, and Kimi Raikkonen in particular, and George Russell. Lewis Hamilton takes win number 98, 2 off 100, but it's not been the vintage season for him, is it? An incident in stereo, of course, broke his front wing, and really hasn't looked with it against Bottas even in normal circumstances this season. Bottas took wins at Monaco, but today Bottas takes the fastest lap, so that'll take a point away from Hamilton in that regard. Great podium for Daniel Ricciardo there, coming to 3-3. That's a fantastic effort from him to get his first podium of the season. Great comeback drive from Max Verstappen. Where could he have been had he not had the front wing changes? We said that earlier, of course. Pierre Gasly just missing out on points. Vital enough, Kimi Raikkonen finishing 17th after having to change his front wing after a collision with Jackson, in which, well, everyone was kind of battering Jackson with their cars today, but Jackson stayed in one piece and finished in P14. But really, I think the drivers are hitting him rather than the other way around. Right, 63 points then is the gap between the two Mercedes drivers. Hamilton has prolonged the championship fight just a little bit more, but aside from that, Max Verstappen now does drop behind. He drops behind Lando Norris as well. Max Verstappen is down in P7. That's not the season we expected from him. He's definitely been the underperformer. Well, Red Bull have been underperforming themselves. It is 138 points between Mercedes and Ferrari. It is some narrow points between Alfa Romeo and HAAS. I couldn't catch it. But Lewis Hamilton has cut into the lead slightly of Valtteri Bottas. But Bottas did what he needed to do and stuck with him. Can Lewis Hamilton make a comeback? But I think the main question is now, can he score win 100? USA's next to find out if the run continues. We'll see you next week. Or next time out, rather.